Welcome to the iBuyer experiment.
What's up?
Oh my goodness, what is up? There is so much going on in the real estate world. It's exciting.
I'm so excited. So many people right now are like doom and gloom and interest rates and inflation and, et cetera. However, the shift is a gift. And to me, there's ample opportunity out there right now to educate, right? Like there's something that I know that you want to show that's like really kind of hot off the presses.
Oh my goodness. So everybody is always wondering, like, is Wall Street like manipulating the housing market, right? And so I wanted to talk about the Phoenix market at the height of our market in May. Since then, prices have decreased by 6.2%. And if you were to take out all of the open door sales from the equation, our housing market only depreciated by 2%. So open door was responsible for over 4% of our price depreciation in and of themselves. And I know that there's a lot of institutional activity that has kind of slowed down. I don't want to say it's completely stop the brakes, but it's definitely slowed down. And I think that's impacting our housing market. And I think we're seeing kind of that fear play out live in iBuyer prominent markets.
So hold on, let's actually give this the context it deserves, because the whole the show that everybody's listening to is the iBuyer experiment, right? Which is kind of the experiment of what we're talking about, what's going on. This totally jives with the narrative of what we do and talk about all of the time. So she just said that it was 6.2% depreciation in the greater Phoenix metro, right? The fifth biggest city in America.
Since May, since the height of our market in May.
So that's actually pretty rapid depreciation as far as that goes. But however, when you look at it, underneath the microscope, right, is what you're saying.
Right.
Only about the market's actually depreciated 2% because open door accounts for like 4%, because they have a massive amount of homes on the market, right?
They do. So right now they're sitting at about 1,700 listings on the market. Most of them are active. About 300 of them are pending. So we know that if you're a buyer and you're looking for a house, getting an open door house could be a massive opportunity, especially before the end of the year. So kind of my thinking is obviously now that they're public, they have to report these numbers. And I don't think that they're going to take all of the losses this year. But my guess is they're going to try and accelerate some of those losses so that they can start 2023 with like kind of a fresh new set of books. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I definitely think that there's a lot of opportunity for your buyers. If they want to make an offer on an open door home, they'll probably get a smoking deal.
Yeah, so that's on their existing inventory, right? So the other thing, us as practitioners in the space, we do need to be aware of is their new offers are, I would say, very in line with what the market, and they're actually going to probably do pretty well on from the acquisition strategy I can see them doing.
Right. So let's talk about that, because I think that's important. Yes. First of all, I just want to say that even though we're kind of in a down moment with the iBuyer movement, I still firmly believe in it. I still firmly believe iBuyer market share will grow. Right. I just think that we're in such a macroeconomic uncertainties are such that a lot of people are just kind of sitting back. They're waiting to see how things play out. And so the capital markets are doing the same thing. And so there's not as much money being poured into the residential real estate space as there was, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, et cetera. And so that's having a big impact on where we stand today.
Well, a lot of that institutional money, right? I think that in its height in certain markets, it was roughly 10% market share that they kind of owned, right? And that's considering not only homes that were on the MLS or, public sites, right, but actual tax records, right? So transactional, you could see the hard numbers of what was being acquired. And so that is a monumentally huge number when you're thinking about, that 6 million transactions happened last year.
Right. And so I think what I believe is that we're not going to see iBuyers go away, but we're going to see them ebb and flow with market changes. But we'll still see the consumer sentiment and the adoption of these solutions grow. And I think that's why we get so excited, because we feel like now is the time for you to really insert yourself into this equation and provide these offers and options that these billion-dollar companies have spent tens of hundreds of millions of dollars marketing. And so you can now capitalize on all of that value and goodwill that they put out into the marketplace by coming in and leading with your cash offer solutions.
Well, and I think that this is the time for the pro to step up, right? Like, I know. So at Zoodealio, we always have we run live coaching. You run one, I run one, to our agent members every single week, right? To keep everybody sharp and just about some of the changes that are going on. And one of the facts that I pulled up in that was actually through the last, massive downturn, right? That, kind of basically somewhat of a,
yes.
the Great Recession. And starting in 2007 and going all the way to 2012, right, there was actually roughly 1.3 active million realtors in 2007, and it fell to all the way underneath 1 million.
Yes, we were looking at, I remember you showed me.
It was shocked me.
It is shocking, and it's shocking to think that we're at a record right now of realtors at almost 1.6 million. So there's a lot of us, and it makes sense, right? It's like a low barrier of entry. Right, there was a lot of froth in the market over the past few years.
I love it.
And so I think that a lot of people got into it not really realizing what it's going to take in this new normal. But that's where the opportunity lies, people, is because now you're going to be able to differentiate yourself at a really incredible way.
Yep, absolutely. And so when we look at this, right? So again, candidly, I don't personally think that we're going to go through a massive attrition of real estate pros like we did, last time, where you saw it drop roughly 35% a fall, right, in the Great Recession. However, even if it falls 20%, right, the other part that was really, I found very telling in this is where it went from 6 million transactions to a projected 4.8 million transactions.
Yes.
Well, when you look at the adjustment inside of that, it's actually only an adjustment of about a half a deal by the time it breaks down for the agent count and the projections based on what I just said. And the other part that I really want to share with us real estate pros out there is if the institutions are letting off 10% of that, well, those are still transactions that are still going to happen in certain areas. So instead of all those homeowners selling to the institutions, they now are going to need to sell on the open market, or they're going to be selling to another cash offer strategy like a Zoodealio, right? So that's what Zoodealio brings. That's the unique benefit. And so this is where this is so key and so paramount for us, through the power of technology, to communicate our value proposition at scale, letting people know how you're going to solve problems in their marketplace. So again, I think it's just, this is where we don't need to run for the hills and hide and start thinking about getting a job, right? A lot of people need to just double down on the education, double down on the niche. Right? To me, that's again one of my old sayings I've been privy to for years, and I heard it redelivered to me in a book, and so it's been in my brain every day. But the riches are in the niches. So
the riches are in the niches. Absolutely, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
What book was that from?
$100 Million Offer, Alex Hermosa.
Oh, okay, yeah, you told me about that.
So that book is like changing my life right now.
Okay, well, I definitely, I actually went on and I looked for it under my books, but I didn't actually buy it yet.
Okay,
so
love it.
I need to.
Good book.
But
pro tip out there, everybody.
Pro tip, the riches are in the niches. I like it. I know we're talking a lot about Zoodealio right now, but we're just really relevant. And so it's hard not to talk about something that we're just so passionate about and we know can really help real estate agents not only stay relevant, but really compete. And before it was like, hey, you had to compete with these iBuyers. And now it's like, hey, you got to compete with your other realtors because there's a lot of them. And so I think this separates you.
Well, and when we look at it, right, the real estate business as a whole is a simple business, not an easy business, right? That's one of the things I know I constantly am talking about. And it's a contact sport, right? Like, how many contacts can you make? How can you communicate your value proposition at scale so that you're drawing people in, right? You need to create awareness and build interest with the people that know you, like you, and trust you. And then your job is to constantly grow that database by sharing that value proposition, right? So that's a very, very simple concept. Now, is that easy to do? No. And that's where I think that right now we have to double down on these particular strategies. We have to double down on communicating, talking about interest rate, talking about hey, the market share, like one of the things that I know I wanted to talk about today was I just pulled up an article where in Arizona was saying that it's not projected to go down, right, in 2023. And I think that's going to be the macro market. But however, as we were just talking about, in certain niches and price points and whatever else, you're already seeing massive price compression. And this was something that was dated October 17th, so just last week. But that's where due to when you just look at it in its most simplistic form, we need to communicate with our clientele better, right? There's so many sellers out there that are confused because they think that they can still get their price that they could 6 months ago, right?
Yeah,
and we need to
absolutely.
educate them that if you're going to price with the market or you're going to price to where you're going to chase the market. And I think that's where it's just paramount that we need to lead that conversation as the real estate pros.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on in the world right now, and kind of shifting gears, because we know that we need to be doing these things, especially those of us that are in the business. We're like, okay, I know I need to be reaching out to my database. I know I need to be educating people. I know I need to be checking in. You know, everybody's talking about a poll that came out at the beginning of the year that said like 74% of buyers that bought a home were dissatisfied with their home.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. It's crazy. Yeah. But yet, even though we know that even buyers we put into homes recently are dissatisfied, we still kind of fear reaching back out, having that conversation with them.
Especially if they sold it to them.
Right. So I guess what I really want to get at is all of this is fine and good, but if you're really looking to go to a place that you haven't in your business, it is probably not some strategy that Eliot and I are talking about today on the podcast that is going to change your life. It is probably like a really long look in the mirror.
Ooh, that's strong.
And really getting crystal clear on what you want, and then really deciding, committing to that. You know, I always love to ask people, are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're just interested, when things get hard, you're not going to follow through. You're not going to pick up the phone. You're not going to make those calls. You're not going to reach out to new leads. You're not going to follow up in the capacity that you need to. And it's because you're only interested in this result. But when you're committed, when you're like, this is happening and it will happen no matter what, a different energy comes from you, and then you're really able to see the course, because this stuff is not easy. Like you said, it's simple, but it's not easy.
It's not easy.
So let's talk about that. How can agents really take a step back? I know in our team meeting yesterday, we watched a Robin Sharma video, and it was a really good video. And he talked about like these 5 strategies that will predict your success. And so I think when it really comes down to it, we have to look at the principles by which we're living our lives and how we're operating. So let's kind of wrap up with some of our insights on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to steal something directly from that, because as I was listening to you talk, I couldn't not think about that yesterday, where Robin Sharma in that video was talking about that the Trojans had it best, essentially, where they sweat more in training, bleed less in battle. I'm like, that hit me heavy. I've actually never heard that one.
That was really good.
Like, damn, that was fire. And here's the reality of it, right? Like, where we as pros need to take a look at the time to work on our business, to build the systems and processes so that we have the standards in place. Where do you want to go? Like you said, where it's sometimes we need to take a look in the mirror, surrendering to what's my daily habits, which is what that was kind of breaking down to, setting yourself up for success. Is it scheduled? Are you taking the time to reflect? Are you taking the time to, I know, schedule it, right?
There were 5 things. Let's see if we can remember the 5 rituals.
Yeah.
I think one was the power of early rising.
Power of early rising,
right?
Yep.
And so if you get up,
the first one.
It was the first one. Get up early, and Robin Sharma is really big on getting up early.
Author of 5 a.m. Club.
Yeah, exactly.
Great, another phenomenal book.
It was. So get up early, and he also suggests to sweat early, and there is a neurological reason for it. Your brain releases a certain chemical that he mentioned. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so the power of early rising, we've all heard that. And we all know that, right?
Yep.
And then what was number
Scheduling.
2?
Well, I think number 2 was sweat. It was active.
Okay.
And then number 3 was scheduling.
And I love the quote. And I think this is like a Tony Robbins thing too, because I've heard this a lot before, but it's that which gets scheduled gets done. So if you really prioritize what needs to happen,
hold on though. Let's pause and look at that one real quick, because I think that's actually, as a, in the real estate industry, it's an entrepreneurial industry, right? And we all want to be our own boss. However, what you'll find a lot of times is we will jump into certain things because of free times and structure, or the freedom to do things. However, if you want to have true success, you actually need to be ultra disciplined on yourself and be even more structured and more scheduled, as you just said.
Yes, I think Giselle Ugarte had told me that real estate agents are just shiny ball chasing entrepreneurs. And I was like, yeah, pretty much we are. That's what makes us brilliant. Like, I totally get it. I love that about us. Yeah. However, when we want to accomplish big things, you need to schedule your priorities, or you won't do them.
So what that means to me, like, and I know, again, as an organization, I think that's actually one of the things I love about what we've been able to build here is we're all accountable to each other, right? Like, so it's this pact, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily, but we're all committed, right? So like, maybe have an accountability buddy, right? When it comes to certain things, like when we set these goals, like what's my overarching goal? What's my one goal, so that if I peel it back, it's going to make my year a success, right? Like, now that reason why I bring that up with the scheduling is because if you have a concrete, badass, kick-ass goal, well, guess what? I got to be disciplined in my day, which possibly means that I need to be doing some self-development, which was, I think, number 4, right? Like taking the time to sharpen the saw.
Yes, number 4 was, I believe it was the power of learning, or the ritual of learning.
Of steady learning, basically taking an hour a day to learn.
Take an hour a day to learn. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then 5 was the reflection.
Yes.
But that's where, like, I think if we look at these things where we have the goals and we peel them back and we set ourselves up for success, here's what I know, guys. Success. So I don't remember if this was in the book of the compound effect or something that I spun or whatever else, but it's a statement that I am a huge fan of. Incremental moves create monumental results.
I like that.
Right. So the increment, what is that? That's the smallest little measurement in a ruler or on a tape measure, right? It's that little notch from point to point. That's an increment. Think about how small that is. And that's where, who's the author of that book?
Which one? Darren Hardy?
Yes, Darren Hardy.
Yes.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Darren Hardy, that's what he talks about. It's like having incremental success. Right? It creates the monumental results. And
creates the compound effect.
Yes, creates the compound effect. And I think that's where it's like, okay, maybe you set out a schedule for yourself, or maybe you swing and you're going to go after this particular lead generation strategy, and you got to strike out a few times to, sometimes really figure out your way. It's like we were just doing some scripts and dialogues with our team just this morning where there was a couple of rough edges, and that's where I was like, hey guys, we have to commit to the process of internalizing this before you make it your own. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's a process and a system to how things need to be done. And that's why it's so important for us to realize that we are a sales system first in today's success. That's my big little nugget I'll share.
Okay, I like it. And then I'm going to sum it up, because you have big dreams, you want to accomplish big things, and most people, they overestimate what they can do in a day, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. So keep the faith, keep going, keep taking action. It will happen. Beautiful things are happening, and we hope to have you back next week on the iBuyer Experiment.